My name is Juniper Hale, but most people call me June. I'm 29, living in Seattle in the near future. The kind of future where drones buzz above traffic like mechanical bees, and AI assistants have replaced half the jobs people once fought to keep. I was one of the lucky ones, or so I thought. Because I didn't just use AI, I built it. 2 years ago, I co-founded a small startup called LatticeMind with a guy named Victor. We worked out of a tiny co-working space in Pioneer Square, surviving on caffeine, vending machine snacks, and the kind of delusional optimism only startup founders can summon. But through sleepless nights and endless debugging, I created something extraordinary, a feature that allowed AI systems to learn in real time from user emotions. Not just sentiment analysis, not just tone detection. I'd built a prototype that could adapt to the emotional flow of a conversation. When I tested it, it was eerie. The AI would pause when you got choked up, speed up when you were excited, even soften its word choice if you sounded tired. It felt human, and for a moment, I thought I had changed everything. I trusted Victor. We were partners, 50-50. He handled pitching investors, networking with accelerators, while I obsessed over the code. He was charming, quick with a smile, the kind of guy VCs ate up like candy. So when he asked for a private demo, just him and me, I didn't think twice. We sat in the co-working lab one rainy night, neon lights from the street painting blue streaks across his face. I walked him through the feature, showing him how the model adjusted to my laugh, to my sigh. His eyes glittered with something I thought was awe. I didn't realize it was greed. A week later, I saw the announcement. Victor Kane launches breakthrough AI feature at Solstice Tech Summit. My stomach dropped. The screenshots in the article showed my code, the pauses, the adaptive phrasing, even the UI elements I'd mocked up on sticky notes. I read every line, disbelief choking me. He hadn't even changed the variable names. It was my work, stolen, polished with his grin, launched under his name. I remember sitting frozen at my desk, rain tapping against the window. My reflection looked hollow, ghost-like, staring back at me. Victor hadn't just stolen code. He'd stolen my identity, my future. Every pitch deck, every demo, every sleepless night. He'd ripped it from my hands and dressed it up as his. And the world was applauding. Investors were tweeting about him. Journalists were calling him visionary. Meanwhile, I sat in a cheap desk chair, invisible. The worst part wasn't even the theft. It was that Victor knew I wouldn't fight back. I had always hated the spotlight. My stage fright was legendary at LatticeMind. I'd choke even during a small team pitch. I was the coder, the builder, not the face. He was betting on my silence. And for one paralyzing moment, he was right. I curled on my couch that night, staring at my phone, rereading the articles until the words blurred. My chest ached like someone had scooped out my lungs. Why him? Why not me? I whispered to the empty apartment. No answer came, but as dawn crept through my blinds, something in me hardened. This wasn't the end of my story. Victor thought he could erase me because I wasn't loud, because I wasn't polished, because I preferred code to crowds. But code doesn't lie, and if I could build this feature, I could also build the proof that it was mine. I wiped my tears, sat up, and opened my laptop. The rain had stopped. The city outside hummed awake. And so did I. I didn't sleep the night after Victor's betrayal. While the city outside glittered with late-night bars and drone deliveries, I sat hunched over my laptop, staring at lines of code. Not his press release, not the glowing headlines, my code. Because the one thing Victor had underestimated was that I documented everything. Every commit, every timestamp. I was meticulous to the point of obsession. While Victor had been charming investors, I had been leaving digital fingerprints across our repos, our prototypes, our test servers. And fingerprints don't lie. I opened the Git logs. There they were, my commits, my notes, my changes down to the minute. A living diary of creation. I whispered to myself, almost like a prayer, you can't erase me. But building proof was one thing, using it was another. Victor had the spotlight. He had the charisma, the investors, the stage presence. I had anxiety, stage fright, a history of avoiding cameras. So I asked myself the question I'd been avoiding. Do I want revenge badly enough to stand in the light I've always feared? The answer came faster than I expected. Yes, because this wasn't just about me anymore. If Victor got away with this, it meant anyone with power and charm could silence the creators who actually built the future. I refused to let that be the story. I needed help. That's when I called my old friend Priya. She was a cybersecurity analyst now, buried in corporate gigs. But we'd been college roommates back at Stanford. She was the kind of person who thrived in digital cat-and-mouse games. When she picked up, her voice was groggy. "June, it's 2 a.m. Are you alive?" "Barely," I said. "I need you." By the time I explained, she was wide awake. "Wait, he what? He stole your emotional adaptation feature?" Straight up demoed it as his own. Didn't even bother to rename functions. Her laugh was bitter. Arrogant and sloppy, my favorite combo. The next night, we met at a quiet coffee shop in Capitol Hill, the kind that stayed open until sunrise for programmers and poets. Priya slid her laptop across the table. "Okay, show me everything." I dumped my logs, prototypes, early design docs. She scanned them with quick eyes. "Yeah, this is airtight. Timestamps, authorship keys, even your debugging comments. Anyone with half a brain can see you built this." My chest tightened. But proof isn't enough. I need to show it, in a way he can't spin. Priya leaned back, sipping her chai. "Then you need a stage bigger than his." Her words hit me like a chord. Victor had unveiled at Solstice Tech Summit. But in 3 months, the global conference was coming. AuroraCon Seattle, the biggest stage for AI in the world. If I could present there, if I could reveal not just my work, but his theft, in front of thousands of developers, investors, and journalists, the narrative would flip overnight. But there was a problem. AuroraCon didn't accept random submissions. You had to be invited, sponsored, or already famous. Victor was all three. I was none. The thought nearly crushed me. But Priya's grin was wolfish. "June, since when have you ever played by the official rules? We'll find a way in." And for the first time since the betrayal, I felt a spark of hope. We worked nights and weekends. Priya helped me build a forensic toolkit, a live demonstration that would let me run my model, then trace its code lineage in real time, showing digital fingerprints back to my original commits. It was brutal, meticulous work, but every time exhaustion whispered, I remembered Victor's smug grin on those headlines. That image fueled me like rocket fuel. One night, as Priya packed up, she looked at me seriously. "You know he's not going to take this lying down, right? If you go public, he'll come for you. Hard." I paused, fingers hovering over my keyboard. "Then let him." Because I was done being erased. Still, fear gnawed at me. What if I failed? What if AuroraCon laughed me off? What if I choked under the lights? Those doubts haunted me every night as I rehearsed in front of a cracked mirror, stumbling over words, sweating through my shirt. But somewhere beneath the fear was a blade of clarity. The truth was on my side. And no stage fright, no PR spin, no Victor could change that. The night before AuroraCon's submission deadline, I recorded my application pitch. My voice trembled, but I forced the words out. "My name is Juniper Hale. I built an AI feature that adapts to human emotions in real time. You've already seen it, because it was stolen. At AuroraCon, I want to prove, in front of the world, that code never lies." When I hit send, my hands shook so hard I dropped my phone. But it was done. Now all I could do was wait. And pray Victor didn't find out before it was too late. The email arrived 3 days later. Subject line, AuroraCon preliminary acceptance. My hands trembled as I clicked. I'd been chosen for a lightning talk slot. Short, 10 minutes, but still an official spot on the main stage. It wasn't a keynote, it wasn't prime time, but it was in. I sat back, stunned. For the first time in weeks, I let myself smile. But relief lasted only seconds. Because I knew, once Victor found out, the war would truly begin. Sure enough, it didn't take long. A week later, a glossy press release hit TechWire. Victor came to deliver keynote at AuroraCon. My stomach clenched. He wasn't just attending, he'd landed the spotlight, a 60-minute showcase. The kind that investors replay for years. And worse, his keynote description, revolutionary advances in emotionally adaptive AI. He was doubling down, claiming my work as his, on the world's biggest stage. That night, I paced my apartment until not Naomi, here it's Priya, practically threw a pillow at me. "Stop spiraling. You knew he'd try to crush you." I buried my face in my hands. "Priya, his keynote is going to be in front of 10,000 people. Mine is 10 minutes at 9 a.m. on day one. No one will care." She leaned forward, eyes sharp. "Then make them care. Doesn't matter how long you're up there. If you hit hard enough, people will remember you. You just need one punch." Her confidence was contagious, but my doubt lingered like static in my chest. As AuroraCon loomed, pressure mounted. Victor's PR machine painted him as the golden boy of AI. Articles sang his praises. Podcasts called him the face of emotionally intelligent computing. Meanwhile, I worked in silence, refining my demo, rehearsing until my voice cracked. But anxiety gnawed at me. Every time I pictured the stage lights, my throat closed. Every time I imagined thousands of eyes, my hands shook. Victor was right about one thing. I was never the face. So why did I think I could be now? The cracks widened when a letter arrived. A cease and desist from Victor's lawyers. He accused me of violating partnership confidentiality agreements, demanding I withdraw from AuroraCon or face legal action. I stared at the paper, bile rising. He wasn't just trying to steal my work. He was trying to erase me completely. Priya snatched the letter from my hands. He's bluffing, classic intimidation. If he had a real case, he'd already be suing. I wanted to believe her, but fear gnawed at me. What if the lawyers were enough to scare AuroraCon into dropping me? And then, the final blow. 2 days before the conference, I got an email from AuroraCon organizers. Dear Ms. Hale, due to concerns regarding intellectual property disputes, your lightning talk is under review. Please provide documentation verifying sole authorship. My vision blurred. My shot, the one chance to reclaim my name, was slipping away. That night, I sat with Priya in the dim light of her apartment. My laptop open to the commit logs. The forensic trail we'd built. This is it, I whispered. This is my proof. But if they don't believe me, I'm finished. Priya put her hand on mine. June, listen to me. Code doesn't lie. You've said it 100 times. And now it's time to let it speak for you. I stared at the glowing screen, my reflection faint in the glass. She was right. I had to fight. Not just against Victor, not just against lawyers, but against the part of me that wanted to disappear. I typed until sunrise, assembling a forensic dossier. Screenshots of commit histories, timestamp trails, API keys with my signature, side-by-side comparisons of Victor's code with mine, proving the theft line by line. When I hit send to AuroraCon, my heart felt like it would explode. Minutes later, a reply. Thank you for your submission. After review, your talk will remain on the schedule. I exhaled so hard I nearly sobbed. I still had my stage. My fight wasn't over yet. But even in victory, unease lingered. Because if Victor had already tried lawyers, what would he try next? AuroraCon descended on Seattle like a storm. The convention center downtown glowed with holographic banners, drones swarming overhead projecting sponsor logos across the night sky. Inside, thousands of developers, investors, and journalists milled about in a frenzy of caffeine and ambition. And somewhere in that chaos, Victor Kane strutted like he owned the place. I arrived early on day one, badge tight around my neck, fingers clenched on the strap of my backpack. My lightning talk was scheduled for 9 a.m., the first slot of the conference. It felt like a curse, the graveyard slot, when half the audience was still hungover or fumbling for coffee. But Priya squeezed my shoulder. Hey, first slot means first impression. You go in, you blow their minds. You set the tone for the whole damn conference. I wanted to believe her. But as I walked the cavernous halls, banners screaming Victor's name and face for his keynote, I felt invisible. The air buzzed with speculation. Have you heard about Victor's demo? They say his AI feels like a human now. Orchid Mind could be the next open AI. Each word stabbed. They weren't talking about me. They never were. Backstage, waiting for my slot, I caught sight of him. Victor, polished suit, hair slicked back. A circle of admirers orbiting him like planets. Our eyes locked for a brief second. His smirk was almost casual, a silent reminder, I've already won. I turned away, bile rising in my throat. When they called my name, I stepped onto the stage, blinded by the floodlights. The audience was a blur of silhouettes, murmuring, checking phones. 10 minutes, that's all I had. My voice shook at first. Good morning, my name is Juniper Hale, and I want to talk to you about the future of emotionally adaptive AI. A few heads lifted, some typed notes. I ran the demo. My AI paused as a test subject choked up, accelerated when he laughed, softened words when he sighed. The room shifted, attention sharpened, people leaned forward. Then I triggered the forensic tool Priya and I had built. On the massive screen, the lineage unfolded. Timestamps, commit logs, digital fingerprints tying the code back to me. Gasps rippled across the crowd. This, I said, voice steady now, is not just innovation, it's proof. Proof that behind every smiling keynote, there are builders, and builders deserve recognition. When I stepped off stage, the applause was louder than I expected. Not a standing ovation, but not silence either. For the first time, I felt the balance tip, just a little, but Victor wasn't about to let me bask. As I left backstage, he was waiting. Well, he drawled. That was bold, cute even. But let's be honest, June. 10 minutes at 9 a.m.? No one's going to remember you by tonight. I clenched my fists. Maybe, but they'll remember the proof. His smirk didn't waver. Proof can be faked, and in this industry, narrative beats evidence every time. I have the keynote. I have the investors. You're just noise. For a moment, his words stung, because he was right. Narrative was everything. But as he walked away, flanked by his entourage, I realized something. If narrative was the game, then I'd have to learn how to play it. And play it better than him. That night, Priya and I watched the buzz online. Clips of my talk circulated, some praising, some skeptical. But one thread caught fire. A developer tweeted, Juniper Hale's demo showed actual provenance tracking. If true, Victor's innovation might not be his at all. The replies stacked up fast. Wait, are we saying Victor stole this? Wouldn't be the first time a founder took credit for someone else. Receipts, or it didn't happen. Priya grinned. See, the spark's there. Now we fan it. But beneath her excitement, fear clawed at me. Because tomorrow was Victor's keynote. And I had no idea what he was about to unleash. Day 2. The keynote day. The day Victor planned to cement his name in history. With my work. The convention center buzzed like a hive. 10,000 seats packed the main hall, cameras everywhere, live streams broadcasting to millions worldwide. And in the middle of it, Victor Kane stepped on stage like a rock star. He opened with his trademark grin. Welcome to AuroraCon. Today we're not just talking about artificial intelligence. We're talking about artificial empathy. The crowd roared. Behind him, the screens lit up with demo footage. His system laughed at jokes, soothed frustrated users, even offered encouragement to a student practicing lines for a play. Every example, I recognized it. They were mine, my test cases, my prototypes. I gripped my chair so hard my knuckles whitened. Victor's narrative was flawless. He spun himself as the lone visionary. We asked, can machines feel with us? And I answered yes. I built Orchid Mind to listen, to adapt, to become more human in its response than any system before it. Lie after lie after lie. The crowd ate it up. Applause echoed. Investors whispered excitedly. Reporters typed furiously. And me? I sat frozen, a ghost in the back row, watching my creation crowned under his name. Then came the final blow. He turned solemn. Of course, there will always be skeptics. People who claim they built what we achieved. But innovation is not about who writes the first line of code. It's about who brings it to the world. The audience nodded, some even cheered. And in that moment, I felt erased. Backstage, Priya found me. June, breathe. He's bluffing. He's terrified you're getting traction. That's why he threw that jab. I shook my head, my chest hollow. No, he's winning. You saw the crowd. He's got them wrapped around his finger. Priya's jaw tightened. Then we hit harder. We need to take this beyond AuroraCon. You showed proof once. We can show it again. Louder. But my body trembled. Priya, I don't know if I can. Every time I see a stage, She grabbed my shoulders. June, you don't have to become him. You just have to become undeniable. Her words sank in, but doubt still gnawed. That evening, clips of Victor's keynote went viral. Victor Kane redefines AI empathy. The future has a new face. And buried in the comments, a few scattered questions. Didn't Juniper Hale show something similar? Where's her side of the story? They were sparks, but Victor's firestorm threatened to drown them. I sat in my hotel room, staring at the city lights. My heart pounded with equal parts rage and despair. How could one man steal everything, and the world just applaud? I whispered to myself, maybe he's right, maybe narrative always beats truth. For the first time since this began, I thought about walking away, leaving tech, leaving Seattle, letting Victor have his empire built on lies. But then a ping, a direct message on my demo video thread from an anonymous developer. Hey, check your commit keys against Orchid Mind's beta. Pretty sure I spotted a match. I blinked, reread. My heart jolted. If what they were saying was true, Victor hadn't just stolen my feature. He'd stolen my codebase directly, line for line. And if I could prove that publicly, the whole house of cards would collapse. I didn't sleep that night. The anonymous message pulsed in my brain like neon. Check your commit keys. Priya sat beside me in the hotel room, half-eaten takeout on the desk, her laptop glowing. Okay, if this dev is right, Orchid Mine's beta build leaked somewhere. Let's go hunting. We scoured underground forums, paste bins, private Slack channels, and then, jackpot. A leaked Orchid Mine dev repo posted by someone bragging about reverse engineering Victor's system. My hands shook as I opened the files. It was mine. Not just similar, identical. Function names, comments, even my sarcastic notes in the margins. Todo. Fix this hack before anyone notices a lull. June. Stop overthinking. They were all there, my fingerprints smeared across his stolen masterpiece. I felt my breath catch. This wasn't just betrayal, it was plagiarism on a scale so arrogant it bordered on suicidal. Priya's eyes widened. Holy shit! He didn't even clean it. June, this is a smoking gun. I stared at the screen, emotions tangling. Rage, relief, fear. Because with proof this solid, I could end him. But I also knew, if I went public, Victor wouldn't just fight back. He'd scorch the earth. Lawyers, PR, smear campaigns. He'd try to bury me under the weight of his empire. Was I ready for that? Priya leaned in, voice low. Listen, we've got two options. We can dump this online anonymously, let the world connect the dots. Or, you take the stage tomorrow and nuke him in front of everyone. My chest tightened. The stage, the lights, thousands of eyes. I whispered, what if I choke? What if they don't believe me? Priya smirked. Then you choke. But the code won't. You let it talk for you. Her faith in me was heavier than the fear. The next day, whispers filled AuroraCon. My lightning talk had stirred curiosity, but Victor's keynote had drowned it. Now the conference buzzed about acquisitions, funding rounds, and his supposed genius. But in a corner of the main hall, a handful of devs clustered around my demo video, arguing heatedly about provenance tracking. It was a spark, small, fragile, but real, and I had the gasoline. That night, I sat at my desk, assembling the ultimate demo. Step 1, run my feature. Step 2, show Orchid Mine doing the same. Step 3, reveal identical code segments. My commits, my comments, live on the screen. It would be undeniable, the stolen skeleton laid bare. But as I rehearsed, my throat closed, sweat dripping down my neck. I saw the crowd, the reporters, the headlines. Bitter coder crashes conference. Disgruntled ex-founder lashes out. What if they spun me as crazy? What if no one cared about truth? I shut my laptop, burying my face in my hands. Maybe I can't do this. Priya looked up sharply. June, stop. You can. You have to. I shook my head. You don't get it. When I was a kid, I bombed a science fair speech so badly I couldn't speak in class for a year. Even at Lattice Mind, I froze in meetings. I'm not built for stages. She softened. You're not built for lies either. And that's what Victor's counting on, that you'll stay quiet. That fear will keep you invisible. Her words hit deep. Fear had been my prison for years. But maybe, just maybe, the only way out was through the fire. I opened the laptop again, fingers trembling, and whispered to myself, code doesn't lie. If I couldn't carry the truth with my voice, I'd let the code scream for me. And tomorrow the world would hear it. Day 3. The air inside AuroraCon crackled with tension. Rumors of stolen code floated in side conversations, dev forums, even whispers in the lunch lines. And at the center of it all, me. I walked backstage, palms slick, my stomach a fist of nerves. My slot wasn't on the main keynote stage, but the secondary demo hall streamed live to the conference feed. Smaller, less glamorous. But this time, I wasn't just showing a feature, I was bringing fire. Priya adjusted my headset mic. Remember, you don't need to shout. Just let the code speak. I nodded, my throat tight. When the moderator called my name, I stepped into the lights. For a heartbeat, fear slammed into me. My vision tunneled, the crowd blurred. But then I glanced at the giant screen behind me, blank, waiting, a canvas. And I thought, this is mine. He doesn't own this anymore. I do. I began softly. Yesterday, you saw my system adapt to emotions in real time. Today, I want to take you one step deeper. into the DNA of code itself. A murmur rippled through the room. I launched the demo. Side by side, 2 windows appeared. My build and Orchid Minds leaked beta. I ran identical prompts. Both systems laughed at jokes, soothed frustration, mirrored tone. "Looks familiar, right?" I asked. Nervous laughter spread. Then came the kill shot. I opened the provenance tracker. Commit hashes filled the screen, dates, keys, and there it was. My author's signature embedded in Orchid Minds codebase. Gasps erupted. Phones lifted to record. I zoomed in, highlighting my own snarky comment. "Park June, stop overthinking." The room broke into stunned laughter. I steadied my voice. "This isn't coincidence. This isn't inspiration. This is theft. Line for line, commit for commit. Orchid Mind's so-called breakthrough isn't Victor Kane's. It's mine." The crowd buzzed like a live wire. Tweets exploded in real time, the hashtags multiplying faster than I could read. For the first time, I wasn't invisible. I was undeniable. When I stepped off stage, Priya grabbed my arms, shaking me with glee. "June, you lit the place on fire." But the celebration was short. Because Victor was waiting. He stormed into the hallway, flanked by 2 assistants. His face was pale with fury, his voice low but sharp. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" I met his glare, pulse racing but steady. Telling the truth. His jaw flexed. "You just committed career suicide. Do you think investors will back someone who goes nuclear on stage? You've made yourself look unstable." I swallowed hard, his words pierced. Because that was my old fear, my old weakness. But I forced myself to hold his gaze. Better unstable than a thief. Security stepped in, diffusing the confrontation, but the damage was done. By evening, my demo clip had gone viral. Tech journalists dissected every line of provenance I'd shown. Developers replayed the commit logs frame by frame. And the narrative began to shift. Victor Kane accused of code theft. Juniper Hale drops receipts at AuroraCon. Code doesn't lie. It wasn't victory yet. Victor still had PR muscle, lawyers, investors who didn't want to believe they'd backed a fraud. But now, the fight was public. And I wasn't fighting alone anymore. The morning after my demo, my phone exploded. Notifications, emails, calls, hundreds of them. Half cheering, half accusing. Juniper Hale exposes Victor Kane. Or is she just a bitter ex-partner? Every headline pulled me higher and dragged me lower at the same time. And then the lawsuits hit. By noon, Victor's legal team filed an injunction, claiming I had stolen his intellectual property. My inbox flooded with cease and desist orders, letters threatening damages in the millions. Reporters called nonstop. Some wanted my side, others pressed for dirt. "Were you romantically involved with Victor? Are you fabricating this to get attention?" It felt like drowning in noise. Priya barged into my hotel room, holding up her tablet. "June, look at this. He's running a full smear campaign." She scrolled through social feeds, bots posting that I'd plagiarized him, that I'd doctored evidence, that I was mentally unstable. The words hit like knives. They weren't just attacking my work, they were attacking me. I sat on the edge of the bed, trembling. He's going to bury me alive. Priya crouched in front of me, eyes fierce. "Not if you fight back. Remember, code doesn't lie. He can throw mud all day, but we've got receipts." Her conviction steadied me, but fear still gnawed at the corners of my resolve. That evening, AuroraCon organizers summoned me to a private meeting. 3 board members sat across the table, faces grim. "Ms. Hale, we need to discuss the disruption your demo caused." "Disruption?" I echoed, my voice cracking. One of them folded his hands. "Victor Kane is a major sponsor. His keynote drew record numbers. Now, thanks to your accusations, we're dealing with legal threats and bad press. We need to know if you can substantiate your claims." My throat tightened. I already did. The provenance, the commit logs. They exchanged skeptical looks. One muttered, "Technicalities." Most of the audience doesn't understand. I realized then, they weren't interested in truth. They were interested in comfort, in protecting the golden boy who filled their seats and their pockets. I walked out shaking, Priya at my side. "He's winning," I whispered. "They don't care about proof. They care about money, and Victor is money." Priya's grip on my arm tightened. "Then we stop playing their game. If they won't listen in boardrooms, we take it to the public." Her words sparked something in me. Maybe AuroraCon's leaders would sell their integrity, but the dev community, the builders watching from around the world, they'd understand. Because they were me. So we fought back. Priya helped me package the leak into a public repository. Side-by-side comparisons, commit history, digital signatures. Transparent, verifiable. Then we recorded a live stream. I sat in front of the camera, hair messy, eyes tired, but voice steady. My name is Juniper Hale. You've heard Victor Kane's story. Now hear mine. I built the feature that Orchid Mind claims as its own. And here's the proof. I walked through the logs, the leaked repo, the comments only I could have written. Priya moderated the chat, fielding thousands of viewers as the numbers climbed. By the time we ended, Code Doesn't Lee was trending. But Victor wasn't done. Within hours, a slickly produced video appeared on his feeds. Don't be fooled by false claims, he said, framed by polished graphics. Innovation requires collaboration, and sometimes, former partners misunderstand their contributions. I wish Juniper well, but the reality is, Orchid Mind is mine. His smile was smooth, rehearsed, believable. And for a moment, doubt crept back in. What if the world believed him? What if charisma really did beat truth? That night, I stared out the hotel window at the Seattle skyline. My reflection looked like a stranger, eyes hollow, shoulders slumped. Was this what reclaiming myself looked like? Exhaustion, fear, endless battles against someone who had all the power. For the first time, I wondered if victory was possible. But then Priya's voice cut through my haze. June, you're not alone anymore. Look. She held up her screen. Devs from around the world were joining in, digging into the repo, verifying signatures, posting their own analyses. Thread after thread confirmed what I had shown. Orchid Mind wasn't Victor's innovation. It was mine. And in that moment, I felt the tide shift. Maybe not enough to end him yet, but enough to know this fight wasn't just mine anymore. The storm was raging, and I wasn't weathering it alone. Within days, the fight left AuroraCon and spilled into the entire tech industry. One side rallied around me. Developers posted proof threads, professors shared analysis confirming the stolen code, even open-source communities chimed in. We stand with Juniper Hale. The other side, Victor's side, painted me as unstable, vindictive, desperate for relevance. His investors doubled down, claiming I was sabotaging innovation. It wasn't just a feud anymore. It was a war of reputations. And the battlefield was everywhere, the press, social media, even courtrooms. Victor's legal team filed full lawsuits now, accusing me of defamation and theft. The numbers and the damages made my head spin. 50 million, 100 million. Impossible figures. I sat in Priya's apartment surrounded by papers, my hands shaking. He's going to ruin me. Even if I win, the cost of fighting him will destroy me. Priya paced, jaw clenched. Not if we get help. From who? I don't have investors. I don't have money. But Priya was already dialing. Then we find people who care about truth more than profit. Help came in an unexpected form. A group of independent lawyers, digital rights advocates, reached out after seeing my live stream. They offered to defend me pro bono. Their lead attorney, a sharp woman named Eliza Tran, looked me in the eye during our first meeting and said, "We've taken down bigger bullies than him. You focus on telling the truth. We'll handle the rest." For the first time, I felt a flicker of hope against the avalanche. Meanwhile, the industry began to fracture. AuroraCon organizers released a neutral statement, trying to wash their hands of the mess. But developers weren't neutral. Panels turned into debates about ethics, ownership, and recognition. One night, Priya shoved her phone into my hands, grinning. "Look, your line's trending." I squinted at the hashtag. Check. Code doesn't lie. Thousands of posts, memes, videos remixing my demo. People quoting it like a rallying cry. For the first time in my life, my words, the ones I'd always struggled to speak, were echoing across the world. Victor fought back harder. He hired influencers to smear me, staged interviews where he painted himself as the victim of a jealous coder. But cracks were forming in his empire. A leaked memo surfaced from inside his company, Orchid Mind, showing developers frustrated, whispering doubts. Some even left, joining my live stream chat anonymously to share their stories. And slowly, journalists stopped calling me the accuser and started calling me the whistleblower. But with momentum came danger. One night, I found my apartment door jimmied open. Nothing stolen, just my things moved. A warning written in Sharpie across my bathroom mirror. "Stay quiet." I froze, heart pounding, bile rising. The message was identical to the one Victor had scrawled back when this began. Priya insisted we call the police. They filed a report, but I knew how these things went. It would sit in a folder, unsolved. Still, the fear was real. Victor wasn't just trying to bury me legally. He was trying to scare me silent. For a few hours, I almost broke. I curled on Priya's couch, shaking, whispering. Maybe he's right. Maybe it's not worth it. But Priya's voice was steel. June, listen to me. He wants you to think you're alone, but you're not. Look around. You've started a movement. If you quit now, he wins. Not just over you. Over everyone he'll steal from next. Her words snapped something back into place inside me. So I kept fighting. Depositions began. Court dates loomed. The news cycle churned every day with a new headline, a new spin. But the truth was out there now, too loud to silence. And as I walked into that first courtroom, surrounded by my lawyers, developers, live tweeting support, Priya squeezing my hand, I knew this wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about rewriting the story of who gets credit, who gets erased, and who refuses to disappear. The storm was at its peak, and I was ready to walk straight into it. The courthouse in downtown Seattle loomed like a stone fortress, cold, impersonal. Walking through its doors, I felt like I was stepping into the belly of the machine. One built to grind people down, one filing at a time. Priya squeezed my hand. Remember, this isn't just about you anymore. Every coder who ever got erased is walking in with you. I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat, but inside, fear gnawed. What if I failed them all? The courtroom was smaller than I expected, but packed. Journalists lined the back row, laptops open. Developers had flown in from around the country, filling seats, some wearing t-shirts printed with my words. Code doesn't lie. Victor sat at the defense table, flanked by his lawyers in crisp suits. His posture was perfect, chin high, jaw set. A portrait of calm confidence. He looked like he belonged here. And me? I felt like an intruder in my own fight. When the judge entered, the air thickened. Court is now in session. Victor's attorney rose first, a tall man with a slick voice. Ladies and gentlemen, what we have here is a case of sour grapes. A former colleague, angry at her lack of recognition, is attempting to destroy the reputation of a visionary. Mr. Kane created Orchid Mind. Ms. Hale is merely trying to claim credit after the fact. His words slithered across the room. Some heads nodded. My stomach churned. Then it was our turn. Eliza Tran stood, composed, sharp. My client, Juniper Hale, is not here because she wants fame. She is here because her work was stolen, not her ideas, not her theories. Her code, line by line, signature by signature. And unlike Mr. Kane, we do not ask you to take our word for it. We will show you. She clicked a remote. Screens lit up around the courtroom. Side-by-side code windows appeared, my repo and the Orchid Mind leak. Line by line, they matched. The room buzzed with whispers. Victor's attorney leapt up. Objection. This so-called leak is inadmissible, unverifiable. Eliza didn't flinch. On the contrary, we will prove its authenticity with cryptographic signatures, timestamps, and server records. The truth doesn't vanish because Mr. Kane wishes it so. The judge narrowed her eyes. Objection overruled. Proceed. For the first time, Victor shifted in his seat. During recess, I stepped into the hallway, heart pounding. Priya hugged me tightly. You killed it in there, June. I shook my head. I didn't even speak. That was all Eliza. Priya smirked. Doesn't matter. Your code spoke louder than any words. I wanted to believe her, but the trial had only begun. That afternoon, Victor's team called their first witness, one of Orchid Mind's engineers. He swore under oath that I had contributed ideas but not actual code. He painted me as a dreamer, someone who talked big but never shipped. I sat frozen, nails digging into my palms. Lies, all lies. But in court, lies sound just as real as truth until they're torn apart. Eliza stood, cross-examining. Her tone was calm, almost gentle. You say Miss Hale didn't write code? Yes. Eliza tapped her tablet. A line of code flashed on the screen. This is from Orchid Mind's repo, correct? Yes. Can you explain why the comment here says, June, stop overthinking? The witness faltered, stammered. That could have been anyone. Eliza's voice sharpened. Really? Anyone named June, telling themselves to stop overthinking? Do you expect this court to believe that? Laughter rippled through the gallery. The witness turned pale. Point Eliza. As we left that day, cameras swarmed the steps of the courthouse. Juniper, do you feel vindicated? Is Victor guilty? What's next for you? Microphones shoved into my face. For a moment, the old panic rose. Stage fright, the urge to flee. But I forced myself to look straight into one camera. My name is on that code. That's all the answer anyone needs. The words surprised even me, strong, clear, and the crowd erupted with cheers. That night, back at Priya's apartment, exhaustion hit me like a wave. I collapsed onto her couch. It's just day one. I don't know if I can survive weeks of this. Priya handed me tea, her voice soft. You already survived worse. Remember when you thought you couldn't even step on a stage? Now you're staring down Victor Kane in federal court. Her smile was small but fierce. Don't you see? You've already changed. I sat in silence, the weight of her words sinking in. Maybe she was right. Maybe this wasn't just survival anymore. Maybe it was transformation. Still, as I lay awake that night, the fear returned. Tomorrow, Victor himself would take the stand. And I had no idea what lies he was about to unleash. The next morning, the courtroom was electric. Victor Kane was about to testify. Cameras lined the back. Reporters' fingers hovered over keyboards. Even the developers who had cheered me yesterday now sat stiff, waiting. I gripped the edge of the table, palms damp. This was it. His chance to spin everything, to rewrite history in his image. And he knew exactly how to do it. Victor walked to the witness stand like he owned it. His suit was flawless, his hair perfect, his smile warm enough to melt steel. He raised his hand for the oath, swore to tell the truth, and then the performance began. Juniper Hale is brilliant, he said smoothly, eyes glancing at me with just enough affection to seem sincere. But she was never a builder. She's a dreamer, an idea person. Orchid Mind needed someone who could take lofty concepts and actually make them real. That's what I did. Heads nodded, my stomach dropped. He went on, weaving a story where I was the unstable genius, the chaotic partner too emotional to deliver. She'd scribble on whiteboards for hours, but when it came to execution, I had to step in. I coded late nights, managed the team, secured investors. Without me, Orchid Mind would be nothing more than a sketch in her notebook. Every word was a dagger, because the truth, the real, documented truth, was the exact opposite. But charisma has a way of bending reality, and Victor had it in spades. Eliza rose for cross-examination. Mr. Kane, you testified that Ms. Hale contributed only ideas, not code. Is that correct? Yes, his smile didn't falter. Eliza tapped her screen. The monitor lit up with the same code comparison we'd shown earlier. Then how do you explain her author tags embedded in Orchid Mind's commits? Victor leaned back, oozing confidence. Metadata is unreliable. Anyone can spoof tags. It's common in collaborative environments. I cleaned up her fragments and rewrote them into working code. That's why my name doesn't appear. I wasn't concerned with credit. I was concerned with building. A clever dodge, enough to plant doubt. The judge's face remained unreadable. By lunch, the press was already buzzing with headlines. Victor Kane, I built Orchid Mind. Juniper Hale's case questioned over metadata. I sat in the hallway trembling. He's winning. Again. He's turning it all into smoke. Priya crouched beside me. No. Look at the jury. Some of them frowned when he called you unstable. They're not all buying it. But doubt gnawed at me. What if they did? What if the truth wasn't enough? That afternoon, Eliza prepared her next move. We'll call our witness now, she said. The doors opened. A figure stepped inside. Gasps rippled through the gallery. It was a former Orchid Mind engineer, Malik Ortega, one of Victor's earliest hires. I hadn't seen him in years. Victor's jaw tightened, the first crack in his composure. Malik raised his hand, swore the oath, and sat. His voice was steady but heavy. I worked under Victor Kane for 2 years, and I'm here to tell you, Orchid Mind's foundation wasn't built by him. It was built by Juniper Hale. The courtroom exploded in murmurs. Victor's mask slipped, just for a second. His smile flickered, his eyes narrowing into daggers. And in that moment, I knew. His defense wasn't bulletproof after all. The courtroom fell silent as Malik Ortega adjusted the microphone. Victor sat rigid, his smile stretched too thin now, eyes locked on Malik like knives. Malik cleared his throat. I joined Orchid Mind in its first 6 months. I was recruited by Victor Kane, but when I arrived, the system already existed. the emotional response framework, the adaptive dialogue engine. It was all there. And it was written by Juniper Hale. The words landed like thunder. Eliza leaned forward. Mr. Ortega, are you saying Ms. Hale built the foundations of Orchid Mind before Victor Kane hired you? Yes, Malik's voice was steady. When I checked the repo, I saw her commits, her author tags, her notes. Victor didn't write the system, he just managed the pitch. He was always better at selling than building. Victor's lawyer jumped up. Objection, this is hearsay. The judge cut him off. Overruled. The witness is testifying from direct experience. Continue. I sat frozen, breath caught. Hearing someone else say it out loud, in court, almost broke me. I wasn't invisible anymore. Eliza pressed on. Mr. Ortega, why are you testifying now? Malik's jaw tightened. Because I watched Victor take credit while Juniper was erased. I stayed silent out of fear. He threatened anyone who questioned him, hinted our careers would be destroyed. But then I saw her demo at AuroraCon. I knew I couldn't keep quiet any longer. Gasps rippled through the room. Victor's mask cracked. His smile vanished, his face pale with fury. Cross-examination began. Victor's attorney paced. Mr. Ortega, you left Orchid Mind under poor circumstances, didn't you? I left because I refused to falsify documentation, Malik shot back. So you're a disgruntled employee, here to smear my client for revenge? Malik leaned into the mic. No, I'm here because I believe in truth. And because I kept copies. He pulled a folder from his bag. Inside were printed emails, screenshots of Slack messages, internal directives. Victor instructing engineers to strip my name from commits, to reassign credit to himself. The gallery erupted. The judge banged her gavel for order. I stared at the documents, my heart racing. Proof. Cold, undeniable proof. Victor's lawyer snatched at the papers, flipping through them, his face paling with each page. Eliza seized the moment. Your Honor, we request these be entered into evidence. They confirm systematic removal of Ms. Hale's authorship under Mr. Kane's orders. The judge nodded, admitted. Victor slammed his fist on the table. This is out of context. Everyone collaborates. This doesn't prove theft. But his voice cracked, and for the first time, he sounded less like a visionary and more like a cornered man. During recess, reporters swarmed the courthouse steps. Cameras flashed. Questions flew. Malik, why come forward now? Juniper, do you feel vindicated? I held onto Priya's hand, dazed. Malik's testimony had ripped a hole in Victor's fortress. Priya whispered, this is it. His empire is starting to crumble. But deep down, I knew. Cornered predators don't just collapse. They lash out. That night, I barely slept. Every creak of the floorboards sounded like a threat. My inbox filled with anonymous emails. Liar. Attention seeker. You'll regret this. Victor's PR team unleashed hell. Paid articles smeared Malik as unstable. Hinted he was bribed. They called me manipulative, a woman weaponizing victimhood. It stung, but I clung to the truth. For once, the facts weren't buried in my laptop. They were out in the open, on record, undeniable. The next morning, court resumed. Eliza called me to the stand. My stomach lurched as I walked forward, swore the oath, and sat down. The courtroom blurred for a moment, memories of my stage fright clawing back. But then I remembered Priya's words, Malik's courage, the thousands of devs tweeting support. I lifted my chin, and I was ready to speak. The courtroom was unbearably quiet when I adjusted the microphone. Every eye was on me, jurors, journalists, strangers who'd flown across the country. And Victor. Always Victor. His smile was gone now, replaced by a tight, cold stare. I swallowed, my mouth dry. This was it. No more hiding behind Eliza or Malik or even the code. It was my voice the world needed to hear. Eliza gave me a reassuring nod. Ms. Hale, please tell the court in your own words what happened. I took a shaky breath. I built the system Victor Kane calls Orchid Mind. Not the idea of it, not the dream of it, the code. I spent nights at my desk in Seattle, writing functions until my fingers cramped. I tested, broke, fixed, rebuilt. Every line has my fingerprints. I glanced toward the jury, searching their faces. And then I trusted the wrong person. I showed Victor a demo. I believed we were partners. Instead, he copied it, scrubbed my name, and paraded it as his own. My voice cracked. That betrayal didn't just steal my work. It stole my sense of self. For months, I felt like I didn't exist. like the world saw him as the genius, and me as nothing. But code doesn't lie. And that's why I'm here. Victor's lawyer stood for cross-examination. Ms. Hale, you claim you wrote the code, yet isn't it true you've struggled with anxiety, with stage fright? Doesn't that suggest you lack the capacity to lead such a project? The insinuation burned, but I forced myself to meet his gaze. Yes, I've struggled with fear, I've frozen on stages. But fear doesn't erase talent. Anxiety doesn't nullify creation. I still wrote that code. And no amount of spin can change that. The gallery murmured approval. Then Victor himself demanded to question me. The judge hesitated, then allowed it. He strode to the podium, eyes burning. June, do you really believe anyone will remember you if not for me? I gave you a platform. I gave you exposure. Without me, you'd still be a nameless coder scribbling in the dark. For a moment, silence hung heavy. My old fears whispered, he's right. But then I saw Priya in the gallery, her eyes fierce. Malik sitting straighter, nodding at me. And the jury, waiting, expectant. I lifted my chin. No, Victor, you didn't give me a platform. You stole one. You didn't make me visible. You erased me. And today, I'm erasing you from my work. Gasps rippled. Victor's face flushed red. The judge banged the gavel. Enough, we've heard enough. Closing arguments followed. Eliza's voice rang clear. This case isn't just about contracts or partnerships. It's about truth. You saw the commits, the signatures, the documents. You heard the witness testimony. And you heard Ms. Hale herself. Don't let charisma outweigh evidence. Don't let lies outweigh code. The jury filed out. Minutes dragged into hours. My hands shook. Priya held me, whispering, breathe. Whatever happens, you stood up. But inside, I was unraveling. Everything I had fought for came down to 12 strangers. Finally, the jury returned. The foreperson rose. We, the jury, find in favor of the plaintiff, Juniper Hale. The room erupted. Cheers from developers, gasps from reporters. I sat frozen, the words echoing like a dream. Eliza squeezed my shoulder. Priya hugged me. Malik grinned through tears. Victor slumped in his chair, pale and hollow, his empire crumbling in real time. Outside, the courthouse steps became a celebration. Cameras flashed. Voices shouted questions. I raised my voice, steady now. This verdict isn't just mine. It belongs to every creator who's been silenced, every builder erased. Remember this, you can steal the spotlight, but you can't steal the truth. The crowd roared, and for the first time I felt whole again. That night, as I walked through Seattle with Priya and Malik, city lights shimmering on the water, I whispered to myself, it's over. But deep down, I knew it wasn't just an ending. It was a beginning. The trial was over, but the aftermath had only just begun. For weeks, the headlines were relentless. Victor Kane disgraced in Orchid Mine scandal. Juniper Hale wins historic verdict. Code doesn't lie becomes rallying cry for developers worldwide. I watched it unfold from my apartment window in Seattle, the city lights shimmering on the bay. For the first time in months, I could breathe. But freedom felt strange. For so long, my life had been consumed by battle. Chasing proof, bracing for attack, surviving each new smear. Now, with Victor's empire collapsing, the silence felt heavy. Priya nudged me one evening. You've got to stop staring out that window and figure out what you want to do next. I laughed weakly. What if I don't know who I am without the fight? She smirked. Then you get to find out. Emails flooded in daily, startups begging me to join, universities offering research positions, even government agencies asking me to consult. But one message stood out, from a global open source foundation. They wanted me to lead an initiative to protect developers from exploitation. A framework for provenance tracking, community-driven, free for anyone to use. I stared at the screen for hours. This wasn't about revenge. This was about making sure no one else lived what I had lived. And for the first time, I felt something stronger than anger. Purpose. Priya and I set up a small office in Capitol Hill. Nothing fancy, just mismatched desks, laptops, whiteboards filled with messy diagrams. Malik joined too, bringing others who had left Orchid Mine behind. Together, we built something new, the Hale Protocol, a system that made authorship transparent, unerasable, impossible to scrub. Every line of code carried its history like DNA. No more shadows for thieves to hide in. And the world responded. Developers flocked to contribute. Companies integrated it. Students downloaded it in droves. We hadn't just exposed a fraud, we had sparked a movement. Yet healing wasn't linear. Some nights, I still woke sweating, hearing Victor's voice in my head. No one will remember you without me. But when those fears came, I'd open my laptop, scroll through comments in the Hale protocol repo, and see thousands of names, devs around the globe, each leaving their mark. Proof that I wasn't alone, proof that we all deserve to be remembered. Months later, I was invited to speak at a global tech conference. The irony wasn't lost on me. The same kind of stage that once terrified me, that Victor had used to erase me, was now offering me the microphone. I almost said no. The thought of all those eyes, the weight of expectation, it churned my stomach. But Priya smiled when I told her, "June, you don't have to be fearless. You just have to be present." So I said yes. When the day came, I stood backstage, trembling. But this time, I wasn't alone. Priya squeezed my hand. Malik gave me a thumbs up. And behind me, slides lit up with the names of contributors from 50 countries. I stepped into the lights. Once, I was afraid to speak. I thought if I stayed quiet, my work would speak for me. But silence doesn't protect you. It erases you. And I refused to be erased. The room erupted in applause. For the first time, I wasn't speaking out of desperation. I was speaking from strength. Afterward, a young developer approached me, eyes shining. "Ms. Hale, I almost gave up coding. People kept stealing my projects. But seeing you fight, seeing you win, it made me believe I can keep going." Her words hit harder than any verdict, any headline. Because in her eyes, I saw who I had been, lost, afraid, erased. And in her eyes, I saw who I had become. That night, back in my apartment, I sat at my desk and whispered the words I had once doubted. Code doesn't lie. Victor had stolen years of my life, but he hadn't stolen my truth. He couldn't. And now, that truth had a life of its own. Bigger than me, louder than him, stronger than fear. I wasn't just Juniper Hale, the coder who was erased. I was Juniper Hale, the coder who refused to disappear. Seattle rain tapped softly against my window the night I sat down to record one last message. Not for lawyers, not for journalists. For the people who had followed my story, who had lived every twist and blow with me. For you, I leaned toward the camera, speaking not as a plaintiff, not as a survivor of betrayal, but as myself. My name is Juniper Hale, and if you've learned anything from my story, let it be this. Silence doesn't protect you, it erases you. I paused, the words heavy but clear. For a long time, I thought my code would speak for itself. I thought truth was obvious, that lies would crumble on their own. But lies are loud. They take the stage, they drown you out, unless you stand up and say, "No, that's mine." I looked down at my hands, remembering the nights I almost gave up, the fear that had nearly swallowed me whole. I was terrified of speaking, of being judged, of losing. But I learned something in that courtroom, something I'll never forget. Fear doesn't mean you're weak. Fear means what you're fighting for matters. My voice steadied. And when you fight, you discover who will stand with you. Priya, Malik, thousands of developers who refuse to let the truth be buried. That's the legacy, not the verdict, not the headlines. The community we built together. I clicked to show a slide, names from the Hale protocols scrolling endlessly. Thousands of contributors across the globe. This is proof that we are stronger together. Proof that no one can erase us if we refuse to disappear. I leaned back, letting silence stretch, before ending with the words that had carried me through every battle. You can steal the spotlight. You can steal the credit, but you cannot steal the truth. Because code doesn't lie. I stopped recording, heart pounding, but this time not with fear. With release, with catharsis. Outside, the rain fell harder, washing the streets clean. And I knew my story wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about reclamation. It was about never letting anyone erase me again.